Good evening. It's Saturday, the 21st of June. You're tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast coming to you from ARIRANG's news centre in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this evening, the wife of the fugitive owner of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry has been arrested on charges of embezzling funds from a church and passing them to her family. Prosecutors say 72-year-old Kwon Yun-ja was arrested Saturday inside an apartment in Bundang, Gyeonggi-do Province. Her husband, Yoo Byung-an, was not there and remains at large. Investigators say Kwon allegedly took an undisclosed amount of cash allotted for missionary work of the Evangelical Baptist Church in 2009 and handed it over to her husband and her eldest son, Yoo Dae-gyun. Prosecutors hope her arrest could also help them track down Yoo Byung-an, who has been one step ahead of the country's biggest manhunt for more than 1 month now. The sinking of the Sewol-ho ferry in April killed more than 300 people, mostly high school students. Now, President Park Geun-hye will have to decide on what to do with her embattled Prime Minister nominee Moon Jang-guk once she arrives back in Korea this Saturday evening following her near week-long trip to Central Asia. Pundits expect the president to make up her mind on his nomination by early next week, since she was kept up to date on the matter during her trip. Moon has been caught up in a political firestorm over a raft of controversial remarks he has made about the Korean people, Japan's occupation of Korea and some other things. Despite her problems over Moon's nomination, President Park enjoyed a pretty fruitful tour of Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, inking a handful of lucrative energy deals and boosting political and economic cooperation with the resource-rich nations. Now, the United States has taken note of Japan's re-examination of its landmark apology for the forced sexual enslavement of women, many Korean, during World War II. Japan's look back on the so-called Kono statement has angered Korea, and pundits say Tokyo's move could hurt America's leadership in Northeast Asia at an extremely critical time. Our Hwang Jie has the details.
With the already strained relationship between Korea and Japan becoming increasingly frosty over historical issues, the United States, which wants both its allies in the region to get along, is feeling a bit of trepidation. The U.S. State Department said Friday that it takes note of the Abe government's position to uphold the Kono statement. This comes after Japan announced the results of its re-examination of the apology on Friday. The Abe administration, while upholding the statement, controversially claimed the Korean government was in close consultations with Tokyo when the statement was being drawn up. The Kono statement was issued back in 1993 by then Chief Cabinet Secretary Yohei Kono and acknowledged for the first time the forced sexual enslavement of some 200,000 women by the Japanese military during the Second World War. The State Department went on to say that it's important that Korea and Japan find a way to resolve their historical issues in the most productive manner and look to the future. Pundits say the comments reflect Washington's intent to keep Japan on side while pressing Seoul and Tokyo to make an effort to improve their ties. Japan's latest move comes after Mark Lippert, nominee to become the next U.S. ambassador to Korea, recently encouraged dialogue between Seoul and Tokyo.
We obviously have conversations to encourage a better dialogue between the Japanese and South Koreans to work through some of these very difficult and painful historical issues.
With such efforts being put in by the U.S., pundits say Japan's re-examination of the Kono statement could hurt Washington's leadership in the Northeast Asian region, especially when it's trying to keep an increasingly powerful China in check. Hwang Jie, ARIRANG News.
The United States has extended its financial sanctions on North Korea for another 12 months as tensions remain over the regime's nuclear activities. In a notice to Congress on Friday, President Barack Obama cited the continued unusual and extraordinary threat posed by Pyongyang. Obama cited the risk of proliferation of weapons-grade nuclear material on the Korean peninsula and the actions and policies of the North Korean regime that destabilize the region and endanger the US and its allies in Northeast Asia. The sanctions, which need to be extended annually, had been set to expire next week. To the crisis in Iraq now, and Islamist-led militants and pro-government forces are locked in fierce battles for the country's largest oil refinery and a key airport in northern Iraq. Iraqi forces are also amassing north of Baghdad, aiming to strike back at the Sunni insurgents. These clashes come a day after US President Obama said he would send some 300 military advisors to Iraq in an attempt to help the Iraqi government deal with this deepening crisis. The first groups of those are expected to arrive in Baghdad on this Saturday. Meanwhile, a humanitarian crisis is brewing. The UN says more than 1 million Iraqis have been forced from their homes with little more than the clothes on their back. In terms of the oil price, Brent crude has hit a 9-month high of nearly $115 a barrel, on concerns the fighting could limit oil supply from one of the world's biggest oil producers. Now, on to the latest on the World Cup, and footballing minnows Costa Rica shocked everyone with a surprise 1-0 victory over 4-time world champions Italy to reach the knockout stages. The Central Americans scored through a header from Brian Ruiz shortly before half-time. That result confirms that England will be eliminated from the group stage for the first time since 1958. France have pretty much sealed a spot in the last 16 after they swept aside Switzerland 5-2 in Group E. In the other game in Group E, Ecuador beat Honduras 2-1 thanks to goals by Ina Valencia. In Saturday's action, Argentina face Iran, Germany take on Ghana, and Nigeria go up against Bosnia-Herzegovina. And staying with the World Cup, and Korea faces off against Algeria in the early hours of Monday morning Korea time for their second game in Brazil. They'll be looking for a win after their hard-fought 1-1 draw against Russia earlier this week. Our Park Ji-won reports on the squad's preparations for the crunch match.
Korean midfielder Lee Chung-young walks the field with the team doctor as part of his recovery training. It's not that he has a specific injury, but he spent too much energy as he played the full match with Russia earlier this week. While most players focus on training in preparation for the team's next game with Algeria next Monday, defender Hong Jung-ho hasn't yet fully recovered.
I try to keep my spirits up as that's how my body heals faster.
Defender Park Ju-ho, who had earlier dealt with inflammation in his right foot, has recovered well and is ready to play in the next game.
I'm a football player and I desperately hope to play in the game, even if it's just for a minute.
Head coach Hong Myung-bo directs diverse trainings while meticulously checking the body conditions of every football player. As the team faces 2 matchups next week, one with Algeria on Monday and the other against Belgium on Friday, condition management is more important than ever as players will need all the speed and stamina they can muster to push forward in the competition. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
Good luck to the Korean national team on Monday. Now, lots of people in Korea are keen, very keen to partake in some outdoor activities while the days are long and the weather is fairly nice and warm. Most trips are problem-free, but health authorities say the public should be aware of a potentially deadly tick-borne virus that has been doing the rounds. Our Son Jung-in reports.
Korea is on high alert over a fatal tick-borne virus following the nation's first death this year in May. A man in his 60s died from the deadly virus after showing symptoms of thrombocytopenia syndrome, which includes vomiting and high fever. The Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention examined the 35 Koreans who have been confirmed with the virus over the past year. According to the report, the number of patients was highest in the month of June, accounting for about 1/4 of the total, followed by the months of May, July, and September. Out of the 35 confirmed SFTS cases, 16 people have died so far, putting the fatality rate at 46%. By area, Jeju Island had the most cases of infection. Authorities attribute this to the relatively high temperatures there, where intermediate tick hosts such as horses and deer can easily be found grazing in the pasture. The health authorities stress the importance of taking extra caution and avoiding tick bites, since there are no antivirals or vaccines for the virus. They advise wearing long sleeves and boots when engaging in outdoor activities until October, when ticks are most active, especially during Korean Thanksgiving season, when people flock to family grave sites to pay their respects. 손정인, 아리랑 뉴스.
And taking a brief look at the weather before we go, most of the country is under cloudy skies this evening, including Seoul, and it's seeing some patches of rain. It will be a warm night with the overnight low only dipping to 19 degrees in the capital. Sunday will be warm under partly cloudy skies, and there is a chance for some rain in the late afternoon. Let's take a look at the weather wherever you are in the world. And that's all we have for now, but we'll be back again for our next newscast at 10 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.